Hi guys, Tony from the Heritage Line. Right, we're on to the hard standing and the loading area. And in this episode, you're going to see me do lots of different things, to be honest. You're going to see me replace the hard standing. You're going to see how I paint the hard standing. I actually mount some lights. So I'm going to show you how to wire, well, how I solder those little tiny fiddly wires. And of course, we'll see it lit up at the end. Now, you've already had a sneak preview of that in the last episode. So hopefully I'm going to show you one or two tricks and tips along the way that may help you. And I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. So we're going to crack on and into the video. So bye for now. So what I've managed to do to start with, I managed to get this base off just about full. The only thing I didn't get was a centre track, but that's no big deal. Now then, the first thing I've done is I've literally got a bit of plasticard like that, put my template on it, worked out where the track is, and I've literally just gone round the outside. I've used a big thick marker pen. I've just used a Sharpie, and essentially that is what I've ended up with. So I've got the basics of my tarmac again. That will just sit on there. Now then, I know this track isn't lining up yet, and this track isn't going to line up yet. So my next stage, I'm now going to use this as a template for a bit of paper. The idea is I can then put the paper on the top, I can line out my track, cut the paper to size, then I'll put the paper back onto this, and then we can cut this to size. So that's the idea. So I've got plenty to be getting on with at the minute, so we'll see how we get on in a bit. Right then, paper's in place. Now I've just got a bit of pastel, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to rub along, and this will show me where the track work is. So there we go. So a bit of luck, get that cut, and that should be able to marry up to what I've got on the actual plasticard now. So I'll cut this to shape and we'll see how it looks. So I've cut it out. That looks like it's going to fit. It's looking very good. So I'm going to mark that onto my plasticard now. Might have to do a tiny little bit of filing, but we'll see how we go. Alright then, as you can see, I've now got my hard standing, and it's actually primed at the minute. All I've used is plasticard, and to ensure I actually get a good bite on the plastic, I've just used this sandpaper. Where you can see it's shiny, I've literally just put over it like that. You can see I get a few scratches in it, I don't know if you can tell. But yeah, and I'll just really rough the edges up a little bit. And I've obviously just gone around the sides as well, took any sharp edges off. Then I've used just some of this. It's just some primer I had to hand. I'm not really worried what primer I use, but this is what I had to hand. So that's the current grey I've got here. Now then, in the real world, you wouldn't see something just one colour. So, what am I going to do? Well, these are what was actually in my foam storage cases. If you remember back to the video, you actually take these out and you do them to the right length. They've got a bit of sticky back on the bottom. So you get a square. I mean, you could use any old sponge. That's my sponge, that's how it looks. Now if I just use that, that's just going to look odd, it's square. So you literally just get some pliers to it. Take all the straight edges off. Rip it up a bit like that. Get some holes in the middle. Like that. And now it's all sort of uneven and stuff. That's what I am looking for. Something uneven. So that's what I'm going to use. It's just a bit of foam. That's all it is. Right then. Clear that off. So in order to do this, I've got a paper plate. And I'll show you exactly what we're going to do here. So that's my paper plate, and these are just cheap, you know, hobby acrylics. I bought these at a store called Boys. It was just in the craft department, but you can pick up tubes of all sorts of stuff. The Works has a good selection, and this is just a light grey. So I'm just going to squirt some on, just like that. Got loads on there, that's going to be plenty, absolutely plenty there. And I've got another colour as well. This is more of a, I suppose it's a creamy, they call it latte. Right, what I'm going to do here, in fact that's probably just enough. You notice, I've just dropped some spots on. Right, am I going to add anything else to it? I could add a brown to it if I wanted. But I think what I'm going to do first, I'm going to see what this actually looks like. So I'm going to dip my sponge in. And I'm just dipping it anywhere. Now I'm sponging a lot of it off here. Like that. Okay. And then we're just going to go over to this. And I'm just going to essentially just go over it like that. So it looks horrible at the minute, I know. But we're going to get some of the grey now. Like that. And we're going to go over it again. But this is more the grey. Bit more grey. So we're now looking a little bit more spotty like, I suppose you could say. Right, I'm going to get another sponge now and I'm going to go over this. And we're just going to take some off, take it back a bit. Oh, in my mind, that's probably looks a bit too, I don't know, creamy looking. Well, dark grey. And essentially we're just going to play around. And we're just going to try and get a feel for it really. We're just looking for that concrete-y look. And you can see I'm starting to get a few tones now in the actual concrete as well, which is really what I'm looking for. You just do this until you sort of get the feel of what you're looking for. It's got a little bit of kitchen towel, screw it into a ball, and we're just going to roll that over, just trying to take a little bit more paint off it. And there you go. You can't really tell on camera, but I can actually see some very different sort of shades amongst that grey. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm just looking for a little bit of a tonal difference. So we're going to let this actually dry now, and then we'll have a look at putting it on the board. So these are the street lights I've got. These are from China, cheap as chips, and that's how an original one looks like. I've got one here, slightly modified it. All I've really done is just filed down the head slightly. You can just see the difference there in the thinness. And of course I've painted it grey. Now then, these come with a bright white LED. Now, that's fine for a modern day street light, but for an older street light, you want it a bit more, I suppose, a warm white or a yellowy colour. So this is what I've done. If you look here, so as you can see, the original one is a standard. Now the other one I've painted orange. Now this is what I've used. This is Tamiya. It's a clear orange and it's X26. And all I've literally done is I've just got a cocktail stick and I've just gone around it and touched it up on the ends. So I'll get some power to these and you can actually see the difference. So this is the actual difference. I don't know if it's picking up properly on camera, but that's a very, very bright white, and that's more of a warm white, I suppose. And the trick is just a bit of that. So if you've got some white LEDs and you think they've got that bluish tinge, just use a bit of clear Tamiya X26. So there you go, guys. Right, so I'm gonna try and show you how I solder. I don't know if you can see them, these tiny little wires. Very, very fine. So I've got 2 reds, 2 blacks. Well, in this case it's actually blue. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put them on a bigger wire. So I've got a normal wire here. I've just actually sheathed the end, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to tin the end. So as you can see, I've literally just put some solder on the end, so that bit of the end of the wire is tinned. I'm going to trim it off a little bit. So it's now trimmed. All I'm going to do with these blue wires is we're going to literally wrap them around that end. Get a little bit of length, and we're just going to wrap both the wires around. Just like that. You can now see the wires are actually wrapped around that end. So the first thing I'm going to do is we need to break through that insulation. So all I'm actually going to do is, to start with, I put a little bit of solder on my iron, and I'm literally, as you can see, just going to rub it around, and that heat will actually start melting off the insulation. That's all we're actually doing, is melting the insulation. And as you can see, the solder starts to take a little bit. So I'm just going to clean my tip. All I'm going to do, so I've got a little bit of flux just rubbed on the end of my finger. I mean, you could paint it on, whatever you want. I'm just going to add a little bit more flux to this end, because that'll help the solder flow. I'm just going to put a bit of solder on the tip of my iron, and it will now flow in. And that's it. That's soldered on now. That should actually be a good solder join. Right, so all I'm going to do is add a little bit of heat shrink now. So all this is, a bit of heat shrink. Just going to cover that end like that. Now you can use the back of your soldering iron. Many people do. You can use a hot air gun. I use a lighter. Fire. And I'll just squish the end down a little bit while it's soft. That's not going to go nowhere. All that means is that this wire now will actually go into a chop block. It's thinner wire. You try and actually screw these into chop blocks when they're tinned. It is a nightmare. So that's me black wire done. So now to the reds. Right then, we're going to do the red wires next. This is a 1/4 watt 1K resistor. That leg's way too long. So we're just going to chop that. And again, what I'm going to do is get me one of the red wires, and we're just going to wrap it round again. Wrap it round that base. Now you'll notice I've only gone halfway. Now there's a reason for that, and I will show you in a minute. But again, first thing I'm going to do is put some solder on my soldering iron. Now you notice this time I haven't tinned it, and I'm literally just going to go over the wire again with that bit of solder. Is going to actually use that to melt the cover, which I think it has. So I'm going to clean my tip, Now then, this is why it's only gone halfway. I'm going to bend it over, like so. And we're just going to nip it up so it's tight. There we go. So that wire's definitely not going anywhere. Again, I've just got a little bit of flux on my finger. I'm going to flux it, lay my tip, and we're just going to add a bit of solder to it now. And that should do it. So that is now one of the reds wired up. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to test it. So that's the light lit. If I disconnect it, it goes off, and we'll reconnect it, it goes on. And that is just actually, if you notice, that is actually just one side. So that is essentially how I actually do it. Right then, so what I'm going to do now is, again, going to add a bit of heat shrinking. I'll get my blaze of fury, and in we go. And I just pinch the end, just so I know that it's done. So I'm going to crack on, and we'll get the other wire done, and then I'll show you what I'm going to do next. Right, so as before, I've cut the wire, well, sheathed the wire, tinned it, got two resistors, should I say. Cut the leads a bit shorter. There we go. And we are now just going to wrap each lead around. Now, as you see, I don't need all that length of wire, so we're just going to cut that a bit shorter. So that's both resistors wrapped around that little bit of wire. Again, I've just got a little bit of flux on my finger. And really I should be using a paintbrush, but you do what you do. All I'm going to do is put some solder on it. It's already pre-tinned, and that's it. That is all now wired up, ready to go. So as you can see, both lights are actually working. So that's a win-win. So guys, I've done the wiring, and this is now where I'm actually up to. So the next stage, I've got some detailing to do, I've got a crane to sort out. So hopefully we'll come back next time, I'll have some more stuff for you. So I will catch you all later guys, bye for now.